Good morning, everybody. Been a long time since I've done anything like this. Let's see what comes to my mind. Um, I've been filling it with all kinds of different new things. Um, Bags under my eyes. Tired. Probably not tired, just it's the way I look. Um, Anyhow, uh, they're they're scamming us. They're pushing us apart. Um, Donald Trump isn't what he pretends to be, or as I would have said during 9/11, he isn't real. And people didn't understand then because I probably was in a different place. I was just a kid, and they all thought I meant it didn't happen. It happened. It's just the narrative wasn't real. Um, Anyhow, Donald Trump's narrative isn't real either. Um, Neither is Pierre Poilievre here in Canada or Mark Carney or whoever you vote for. Um, I've said it before. Once you vote, you can't complain because by voting, you're stating that one or the other side is competent and capable. So when you're wrong, it's like betting on a horse race. You can't change your bet halfway through. You can't want the whole race shut down halfway through because you were wrong. You got to just bite the bullet. You bet on the wrong horse, better luck next time, or whatever, or maybe quit. But we can't quit the world. We can't quit life. We can't quit society. Though that's an option in Canada. You can. Um, they're trying to make it for anything like depression, sadness, whatever. You can just go get the MAID program, be put down like a dog. But it's funny, y'all believe you're no better than dogs, or not all, most. The world believes it's no better than dogs or bugs, and that they're actually um, a hindrance to the world. I used to think that myself. People say, I was just in a conversation the other day, and they were saying, the only way we could save the world is if mankind wasn't on it anymore. Well, what's the point of the world without mankind? What purpose would it serve if all the animals could live? Um, if they don't have some better way of life, something to strive for, the planet is pointless. And I realize you think that there is some point. Oh well, the animals could all live free for what? Think about it. Think it through. Actually, try to come up with a reason. I'm sure that there's people out there that would come up with reason, but without the soul, the test, the life, the building, the invention, what's the point? Some alien species can come here from a planet that they have or had in order to utilize the resources. Well, why not utilize the resources ourselves? Some future generation that you don't even know will exist. If your theory's right, something else like an asteroid is going to destroy us all anyway, and the world's going to reset itself anyway. and go through the cycles that it's been going through for billions of years. And the dinosaurs are going to come back, or cockroaches are going to rule the earth. What the hell? Why do you fight so hard to save a planet that isn't going to save you? To save a generation that probably can't exist in the new world as it moves forward. In your theories, climate change is natural. That's how the earth deals with the problematic species that is on it. So when it wanted to get rid of the dinosaurs, something happened, whether it be volcanoes erupting, an asteroid hitting it, whatever. And in your theory, the universe has some great power, so an asteroid hitting it could have been the Earth moving towards an asteroid as easily as the asteroid moving towards the Earth. And in any case, the universe decided it, so it's fine. Because the universe decides everything, right? So fight for today, not tomorrow, and not yesterday. Those are gone. Those experiences are gone yesterday and may not come tomorrow. So the only time is now. And you can apply that to the world as a whole. So as moving forward as a species, live for the moment, or in your own life. That doesn't mean be irresponsible and burn up everything and live like it's like there's no tomorrow. No. Try to stride yourself to be the best that you can be, and understand that you don't need to dwell on the past, and you can't force the future. When I look back at my life, I was wishing for something else, for a different kind of life at times. And when I look back, I needed those bad times in order to have the better times. I was always in the right spot, even though I would look around and say, I'm not in the right spot. I was in the right spot. It's like when I gave up everything and moved into the van and went on my travels, one of my worries that came up was being lost, right? And I told myself I'm never going to be lost. I'm just where God needs me to be at that moment. And that has been true my entire existence and yours. So if you don't understand this, it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's just that you're not ready. So you can watch something, me or something else, whatever, and listen to it and say, and it just doesn't resonate. It doesn't pull you in. You might understand it a bit, but you're just like, yeah, no, this isn't for me. And you just forget about it. And then years later, you watch that exact same thing and it will resonate. All of a sudden, something pops up, and it's something that that you've seen before, but you weren't ready for, you weren't grown enough for, and you're like, wow, this didn't resonate with me 5 years ago when I watched it, but now all of a sudden, that one sentence or that word grouping, whatever it is, all of a sudden captivated me to a point that I'm going to look into this more and more. And now, to burst your bubbles for the haters, the world can't be old. There's things called limiting factors within the heliocentric model where the universe can't be that old, as you guys think, because um, the sun is shrinking, the moon is getting further away, all these different little factors. So if you go back in time far enough, like to the Jurassic era, the sun would have been so fucking big that life wouldn't have been able to exist on this planet, any life. And on top of that, the moon would have been so close that if it's what affects the tides and stuff, you'd be getting a flood every couple days, every time the moon went by, which at a tighter radius would be a different time schedule altogether. The calendar wouldn't be the same. Like the moon phases would be totally freaking different because the moon's now it's like traveling this big circle all the way around. If it was right in close, traveling at the same speed, it would make that circle faster because it's not traveling as much distance. So you'd have moon phase, moon phase, moon phase, moon phase over and over again. And then back far enough, it would have just like taken the tops off trees and stuff. Now geologists say that it broke off and the moon is actually part of the Earth. That's some people's theory, which is crazy to think of. But the perfect circle and all that kind of stuff, it just doesn't make sense. But again, that limits the age of the Earth. Doesn't make it greater. And then space doesn't make any damn sense because with the Big Bang, anyways, because an explosion has laws, and those laws are that one of the main ones is that all the debris or shrapnel from the explosion will get further from each other as it gets further from the source, and it will be evenly distributed and all spinning in the same direction. When we look at space, there's vast regions of empty space, clusters of planets and moons and stars that some spin in totally wrong directions, the entire galaxy, at least one, and then others have moons going in the opposite direction while the galaxy is going in the right direction. So it just doesn't make sense. It can't be possible. I don't know why they even hang on to the theory, but they do it because of there's no other theory. Actually, people have come out and said that certain scientists, how did this thing go? A sickly paw hangs over the evolutionary debate, and we have no evidence. But the only other theory is the only other explanation is that there's a God, and we don't want that in our, I can't remember the word he used off the top of my head, but in our sin, our lust, our greed, and all these things, we don't want to admit that. And he was talking to other scientists as a scientist. So, anyhow, let's get into the politics, because none of you are seeing it, or very few of you are seeing it. I watch all these videos that pop up in my algorithm that are like people bitching about the left or the right, or there's even some that bitch about all politics but love Trump still or whatever. Um, they talk about a corrupt system and then talk about the lesser of two evils. In my mind, it's like arguing over WWF back in the day when it was Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man, and I can't remember the tag team, but everybody would hate the Macho Man and love Hulk Hogan, and then Hulk would lose Elizabeth and she would go with the Macho Man or whatever, and we'd all switch. And then a little while later, they'd switch again, and we'd all, you'd either hate Hulk or you'd hate the Macho Man, and then you'd hate Macho Man and you'd love Hulk, and all this stuff. It went back and forth for years and years. Still does, I'm sure. Um, and then they'd get together and make a tag team, and you'd hate the Rockers or you'd hate whoever, right? And love them. And I can see whoever in my mind's eye. I could see that tag team that wore the black leather and they were bad guys. But I don't remember the name of the team. But anyhow, they were good guys a few times too. Before that, there was your standard bad guy. Like Hulk would be your standard good guy all the time, and then for a long time. But then they started putting all the soap opera dialogue into it. I think it's what gave them up as being fake too. But it isn't just them that's fake. That's something you got to come to the realization of as well, that the NFL came right out and said, we're an entertainment league. We can rig our games if we want. All the sports leagues are like that. It's a distraction. It's just like watching a TV show. My city, that city, this town, this country, whatever. It's to keep you from looking at the politicians and what they're up to. And then we're really not taught any of that in school, what politicians do, how to fight against them. You don't want your populace to understand how to maintain control over their own country. Anyway, trying to talk about Trump. The way I see it, he's one of them, part of the club. He's just the Hulk Hogan, good guy in the yellow shirt. And he's coming in, yeah, freaking right out and getting the crowd hopped up and doing a character to get people behind him, the same way that the Hulk did a character, Macho Man did a character, and then they'd switch and do different characters. And, Hulk was the all-American guy, and for a while he hated America. And then he'd go back to loving America, and then he'd hate America, and then he'd hate Macho Man, and then he'd lose Elizabeth, or whatever the scenario was, that they'd write him into being the bad guy for a while. Anyhow, Trump's the same thing. And he was a good character to pick because everybody kind of knows him. Everybody knew him. You've known him your whole life. And seen him here, there, whatever, So, and he's got this pompous attitude that, love or hate, it's works well with the people, right? And kind of figured out, with that show, You're Fired or whatever it was, he kind of figured it out how to play the people, how to be that character. So they're utilizing that character. They called him up, said, "Hey, Trump, how's it going? We got all this dirt on you. We own you. You know that. Or we can make or break your companies at a whim. You know that." They don't have to say that. They're just saying, "Hey, Trump," but he knows all this in the back of his mind. Oh, shit, this is the boss. You're going to run for president. You're going to run as the good guy. And you're going to tell all the people that you're going to save them. And you're going to tell them a lot of really neat things and open the minds of a whole group of people in a different direction and cause major unrest within the country and all countries. And you're going to promise them that you're going to change it and fix all the politicians, and you're going to fix the FBI and fix the CIA, and you're going to release all this information. You're going to do all these things. And everybody's going to love you, all the Republicans. And then when you get into power, of course, you're going to do what we say. Behind the scenes, you're going to sign the bills, and you can do it at plain sight. It doesn't matter behind the scenes. With Trump, you're going to get away with doing the opposite of what you said and just keeping things on the same plane, though you're going to escalate the next war. See, they wrote about the war, the Third World War. They wrote all three world wars in 1871, and then it was leaked in 1879. Personally, I think that it was leaked on purpose. It was leaked in order to keep their karma, right? A Satanist can't trick you into having a poison apple, but they can show you a poison apple and say, "Here's a poison apple if you want to eat it, or will you eat it, or what have you." So that's like McDonald's thing, where they commercials and stuff, they'll say it's all great, but they also tell you all the ingredients that are in it and how horrible they are. Not so loudly, but they have to release that in order to keep a balanced karma. See, all power on earth is God's power. Satan doesn't have power. He manipulates God's power, the power that God put here, to his gains. And what he'll do with certain things, there's certain tricks that he'll pull for certain personalities. And for those that are intelligent and curious-minded, he'll take you down a rabbit hole that will keep you in that one branch of power, and you won't look at the channel of power. So if God's a lightning bolt of power coming down to earth, then there's all the little branches coming off of that lightning bolt. But there's the main bolt. You want to stay on the main bolt. You want to get to the top of that. But if Satan can, on your way up, if he can take you down one of the little ones, that's just a dead end, and keep you there, then he'll do that. And he uses curiosity to do that. And so we got to be careful of our curiosity. The book of Demonology explains this very well. And for all the different personality types, that's the one that stuck with me because I'm a curious mind. And so I have to understand that alchemy, witchcraft, all those things, they're great. You can go down those channels, but don't stay on them. Don't focus your life. You got to come back to Jesus. You got to come back to God. You got to go up the main channel. And you can learn the branches, but you don't have to. They're just branches of the main channel. You can just stay on the main channel, and that's fine. But you can also go down the branch, check it out, and get back on your channel because it's all God. So anyhow, Satanists need to utilize God's power, so they need to play by some of the rules of that power in order to obtain it. And for it to work properly. So there are other things that you can get to work properly without keeping a karmic balance, like witchcraft and things of this nature. But your time's going to be limited greatly, and you're going to be extremely punished on this earth, not just in the next life. So in order to be put in the pit of sinners, that, like the sorting pit in heaven, put into the pit that sinners are, or that were never persecuted of their sins on this earth. I used the wrong word there, but that's one pit. And then there's another one for the sinners who were persecuted on this earth for their sins. And then there's another one for the sinners that did their best to not sin and were probably persecuted on this earth for their sins that they did commit. But Christians, people who dusted themselves off of that sin and tried to move forward in the best way that they can. Anyhow, because we're all sinners. But so in order for those Satanists to keep the path that they want to keep and the power that they obtain, they have to abide by certain rules that seem very godly. That's why Satanism is so close to Christianity and is the saving of the world at the end of the Third World War. When Albert Pike wrote that letter about the 3 world wars, it was light in the furnace, cold, about the 3 world wars, the Third World War would be fought between all factions of the earth and over whatever. And he goes on to list things like black, white, Jew, Muslim, Christian, atheist, and all the different wars, fights that are going on within our society. And they're going to fuel that so much that we're all going to go to war. And it's not going to be over countries. It's going to be over ideologies. So people are going to fight more passionately. And then they're going to introduce their one true God, Satan, in order to bring peace and control. Though it should say control and peace. It won't be peace either. There'll always be crime and what have you, but they'll have total control. They kind of already do, but they have an obsession with it. They don't want to just control who gets wealthy and who doesn't, and who's prosperous and who isn't. They want total control over your day-to-day life as well, and your thoughts and your speech, in order to keep that control. Well, it's just like I was saying about the branches. You get a man on a branch, and he can become obsessed with it. I think about I think it was Bugs Bunny cartoons. When I was a kid, there was a character that was panning for gold, and when he'd see gold or whatever, he'd go all crazy. Woo, gold! And he had gold fever, they actually called it on the show. And anyhow, I always think of that guy and how it's not just gold. It can be power, control, whatever. And so that's the way they are. Like, they just can't get enough. It's an obsession. It's like a drug addict. You just never gonna stop. They're addicted. So, it's like me smoking cigarettes. We all have our vices and sins. It is our responsibility to deal with them, but one at a time. Quit smoking weed altogether pretty well. Wow. Once in a while, I'll put a little tiny piece of bud into a smoke, but I don't take much, and I get retarded high, and don't enjoy it for the most part, unless I'm going to spend time with the Lord, and I want to get a closer spiritual experience, or when I'm on my property doing something that I love, like working for myself and for, hopefully, not all of mankind, but at least a branch. I'm not much closer to opening Linger Longer Mental Health Farm and off-grid living community, though I don't have the size of land that I would have liked, but it's okay. I have a plan, and I have a peace. So far I can't get there in the winter, but but it's next year I will be able to, one way or another, and it's not that bad. It is plowed. The road to it is plowed, and then it's just a matter of having a better vehicle that can do snow better than this old van. Anyhow, I am moving forward with it, and by spring I'll be able to sleep, 3 couples, and then myself in the van, and by the end of summer I'll get a fourth. I'll have space enough for a fourth, and I'll have my gardens made and have my start of my fields made. I'm thinking sheep. As my larger animal, because chickens, obviously, every homesteader off-grid community loves chickens, but sheep are pretty profitable and easy to manage, as opposed to other meat animals like cows, and they're more useful than goats. Better meat and wool, and you can actually do sheep's milk. Apparently, I've tried it, but I don't know about that. Excuse me. Anyhow, I do have a sustainable plan, and I've been studying it and learning more about their care and disease control and shit like that. But this year it's just gardens and fields. And then hopefully method of travel. Duh. So, anyway, the Donald Trump thing, to get back to that, if you love him, you're being fooled just as much as if you loved Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden or whatever. You're being manipulated. If you hate, it's the same thing. you're just being manipulated. If you hate based on a religion or whatever. And they're putting out something for everybody to hate. That's the other reason that they wanted the awakening to start, is because those people are going to hate a group as well, and they're going to fight harder for their ideals. The people waking up to the government, they're going to fight for ideals as well. That's the goal. My advice is to just try to keep yourself clean of it. You don't want to fight the Muslims for wanting to Sharia law everywhere. They're another tool. They are a weapon that was formed against you, and it will not prosper. Obviously, you may have to fight them, because the Sharia law thing, pretty soon, Canada's going to manipulate the Religious Rights Act so that they can uphold Sharia law and say it's religious belief. So they'd be able to do unthinkable things to any woman in your family, or any woman friend of yours, or your wife, for any number of reasons, at a whim, and they won't be persecuted for it. We already see them doing it to their own, where in the States, a man and his son beat their daughter or sister or whatever, beat her to death for taking off her stupid hat, and did unspeakable things to her, and left her for dead in the ditch, and then said, well, she disgraced our family. She took off her hat, showed her hair. It's our religious custom that that's what's supposed to happen to her. I don't think they got away with it totally, but I'm sure they're not getting what they should. They're not getting what a white man would get, or a black man would get, for doing the same thing to his sister or daughter. And that's without the new laws. Canada is further along, where Justin Trudeau had something there where religious rights and freedoms are taken away. He's taken that away because when the conservatives fight for it to get it back, and all the preachers fight to get it back, they'll bring it back in such a way that the Muslims will be able to use it as well. Both sides are working in tangent to guide the herd in the way that they want them to, and to get them to fight for things that they want you to fight for. So you may have to fight at some point just to survive, but don't go out and fight for a side if you can help it. If it goes to their plan, you won't be able to help it. You'll have to fight for God or die for him. He tells us to just go live in the woods and stay clear of it. There's been times when he said that throughout the Bible, and it was for that time and for a future time. We're in a future time, and what God wants you to do is to just take your loved ones, take your family, and go somewhere secluded. Stay alive. Be Noah's Ark. Noah didn't go and fight and force people. Jesus didn't either. They lived in a way that was an example. and warned people on the way to their demise. So that's our responsibility. Warn the people of this demise and that it is coming. But don't get involved in it. Set something up. Figure it out. I worry that whatever linger longer becomes will be taken away by the government at some point. But most of they're not going to be able to police everything. But I'm also going to set up alternatives with tents and things and be ready to just go and forage in the woods. It's fine. And what I used to do with pot plants was I'd put maybe 15 plants out in groups of 5, or even 10 plants out in groups of 5. So if one spot got eaten, stolen, busted by the cops, whatever, I still had the other spot in a different location, so I increased my odds. And once in a while, got all 3 and then increased my abundance for that year. But usually not. Most of the time, one spot got corrupted in some way, whether it be bugs or snails or bad weather or tides or whatever. I think we're going to have to garden in the same way. So plan on that. Have your seeds, pick spots along your trail when you're out there, cut down a couple trees, whatever you got to do, make a small garden. Don't use all your seeds, don't use all your plants. Move to another spot far away and plant another garden of the same things. And if you get both or 3, then you're going to be able to feed many. If you get 1, you're at least going to be able to feed yourself. Meat is harder, but at least have alternative meats. A bow and arrow seems like less of an option than having a gun, but it's quiet, it's reusable. You can make your own bullets, and you don't have to worry about it getting wet. Guns, if your bullets get wet, it's useless. If you run out of bullets, it's useless. If you shoot it and it's too loud, you're going to be in trouble. So, good to have a gun if the circumstances allow it, but imperative to have a bow and arrow because it's a sustainable resource. Seeds, well, obviously you need a good amount, more than a year's worth at first, and you need heirloom plants that or heirloom plants, should be said heirloom. Anyhow, you need them in order to harvest new seeds from the plants so that you have seeds for the next year. So you don't want to get GMOs. And GMOs are copyrightable, so you're not allowed to sell the produce from them. and they're genetically modified, so they're not good for you, or what have you, not as good for you. A lot of them don't even carry seeds, and there's good reason for that. Seeds actually have vitamin B17 in them, so they tell you that they're bad for you because it's cyanide. So they say don't eat seeds, and we'll grow seedless plants, and we'll do this and that. Get away from seeds. But that natural cyanide clings to cancer cells and kills them, certain cancer cells. So it's actually super good for you to eat in small amounts. I wouldn't suggest eating a bowl of apple seeds or something, but if you eat an apple, eat the seeds. They're good for you. I think it's apricots that have one of the highest levels, and I think are the best for you. But again, don't eat a bowl. Eat a couple a day, one a day, whatever. Probably do some research. But if you're going to eat a piece of fruit, eat its seeds. Anyway, and if you're going to grow fruit that grows seeds or vegetables or whatever, and you'll be all right, because you'll be growing new seeds for the next year that you can continue your stockpile. I say keep enough for 2 years at least, because you might not get anything on the first year. You might totally fail that year trying to get your beds ready and your plants and your gardens, and find the areas and then protect them properly. The deer will eat them all. Bunny rabbits, things like this, will just decimate them. So you're going to have a lot of work in order to fight those things. So you want to have a couple, 3 years worth of seeds, and just in case you don't succeed the first couple of years. Other people are going to be starving and looking for things. And if they find one of your gardens, if they're not properly secluded, gone. So that's how you should prepare, in my mind. Now, whatever, everybody's different, but a lot of people aren't ready for this information, and you're not going to be able to grasp it. So you're going to say, no, I'm going to get a bunch of guns and defend my house in the suburbs. No, you're not. You're going to end up in war for that house in the suburbs. The war is going to be outside your door. And at a certain point, your guns aren't going to do much. Once they start burning your house, you got to leave. You got to only take what you can carry, and you're not going to carry all those guns and bullets. And then you're going to run out, and then actually you're going to become one of them, because once you're homeless and without, how are you going to live? You're going to go rape, rob, pillage, and steal, or do whatever you have to do in order to live. You're going to go subscribe to the army so that they feed you. You're only going to have so many options. And we're all playing right into it. I don't think there's much of a chance of it not happening. Might be 10 years, whatever. Could take them a while. They don't care about that. They want their goals, and obviously they want them now, but I see all these other people that on videos, and they'll say, 40 years, 20 years, no, 140 years, 300 years. You can go back, you can find them 500 years ago. There was the writings, They've been really successful over the last 140 years in enacting this plan and keeping each generation of kids on the same path with the same demons and the same goals, but they're not brand new. This is not something that's going fast. It's demonic. So it isn't the human man, woman, child, whatever, that matters in these families. It's that they are possessed by the same demons. And then, however they do it, I don't know. But they raise these kids within these families to have those demons. And once they have them, their goals line up. They keep moving forward on the same plan in lockstep with the generation before them. So that it seems like they live forever. But it's the possession. So if I'm right about that, the Nephilim were cursed to stay on this earth and lose their bodies. They're going to stay on this earth forever, never getting into heaven or hell and being trapped on earth. There's your ghosts. That's your demons. That's your possessions. That's all these things that people think are the lost spirits of humans and all this other crap, or reincarnation and all this other stuff that they believe in. It's that spirit making it seem like your theories can be correct. Reincarnation. Okay, you're going to remember memories of your past lives. No, you're remembering memories of that demon's past possessions. That Nephilim possessed, it could even be in your family, generations and generations of people. And then you have a regressed memory of whatever, and now you think you're reincarnated. No. Your demon is reincarnated. It's still possessing. And it's possessed a new person. And now it's got such a hold on you that it's going to put memories of the other people it possessed into your head. Also, your imagination is super powerful. And, if you're watching old war movies and things of this nature, you can convince yourself that you've had memories of this. Even though you haven't. You just are able to program that into your mind. Your mind is so programmable. It's unbelievable. So you got to be careful about these things. Be aware and I guess know Jesus. It's the only thing. And I know you can say that's delusional as well. There's all kinds of arguments against it. There's all kinds of other religions, all that kind of stuff. There's arguments out the yin yang. But not only have I seen it in my life, I've seen it in other people's lives. Jesus changes people positively. And other religions don't. The ego still pours out of even Buddhists. And there's massive holes in all of those theories, all those religions and things that I've looked into, where it's blatant sin being adopted in the name of God, in the name of their God. So, and I've seen that in Christianity as well. And I know that you're taught that all wars are fought over Christianity. More wars have been fought over atheism. More people have died in the name of atheism than ever in Christianity. And just because a man gets it wrong or a generation gets it wrong doesn't mean the book's wrong. You can, like I was saying at the start, you can not manifest something or not understand it at the time and then understand it later. Well, mankind works in those same kind of cycles where, as a whole, we understood something or thought we did that we didn't understand yet and had to move forward. And the next generations understood it better. Things have been lost. Things have been found. The Bible, big time. The entire Bible was lost to the Hebrews a bunch of times. Now, twice. The generations didn't even know it existed. The king didn't know it existed in one instance and rent his clothes when the scholars found it buried in the back of the library and brought it out and read it to him. They knew God existed, but they didn't know his word, and they were doing it all wrong. They were worshiping gods and idols and all these things, and just actually he prayed to God and tried to repent and brought his people back to God as much as he could, and God said it was too late for the people. They had to be punished, and they went into 300 years of slavery and wars or whatever it was. I can't remember, but you'll die before it happens. And that king got to live out his life and save some souls, and then a bunch died, but he died specifically. I'm sure that God also pulled some other souls who repented properly before the deluge or whatever happened to them. And then I believe that was Babylon that they went into. And I think it was Babylon that the city was called, and they came in, invaded, tore down the temple, and imprisoned and enslaved the Jews, took them all home with them for generations until King Cyrus was born, when he rebuilt the temple and all that stuff, when he seen that he was written about years before. Anyway, the Jews have been lost and saved many, many times. And that's another way that you can tell that the people that are Jews now aren't the Jews. They've actually got in their writings that they've never been in slavery as a people, and all kinds of different things. But most importantly, Jesus told you they call themselves Jews but are not. And they are the synagogue of Satan, though I don't know that that's proper. But he referred to them as being Edom. And if you know the Maccabees, Edom was converted to Judaism in the book of Maccabees. It's been an hour that I've been talking to you. So that's crazy. So when the Hebrews were converted, the Edomites were converted to Judaism, they took over the next couple generations, and totally took over now in these generations. And that's why none of them can retrace their bloodlines and things. And the real Hebrews, well, they dealt with them differently. The 10 tribes and the two tribes. So the southern two tribes, they renamed them and brought them by ship to 400 years of slavery in Second Egypt, second slavery. And it was, excuse me, that was the African Americans. And they make them think that they're African Americans, even though they're Hebrews. And the African Americans hated them. And that's why they were able to get the African Americans to go and catch them. They gave them rum and guns. And so they got courage and power. And they were able to go out and catch Hebrews in the woods, bring them out, and sell them as slaves. They weren't selling themselves, like we're told. Obviously, as those tribes went further into Africa, they would have taken slave women and wives and different things. Even though it's sinful to do so, they would have ended up doing that, and they got darker melanin, and they were more exposed to the sun, so they got darker melanin. The other 10 tribes were pushed through a diaspora all through Europe, and every time they tried to settle somewhere, the people of that place ran them out, and they crossed the land bridge to come to North America. And I believe that's when the Grand Canyon and a lesser known canyon of the St. John River in Canada opened up and released huge lakes, raising the level of the ocean and burying the land bridge, or the actual walking path. The land bridge is still somewhat there, but it's only comes out certain times a year and this and that. But anyhow, and it's really an ice bridge, but there was a land bridge. Like, there's footprints under the ocean and wheel tracks and all kinds of things from at some time when we could just walk. And if you drop the oceans, not much, I think it's 20 feet, you could walk everywhere on Earth. There's that little water between, like, Australia, so you could walk to all the major continents. And that's how God also, in his beautiful sovereignty, was able to protect weaker animals. So everything got off the ark all at the same time and started eating meat. So you would have had lions, tigers, and things of this nature. Big cats would have been the king predators, and you had the buffaloes and the water buffalo and gazelles and different things of this nature that were the top of the prey animals and could live near those cats in relative peace, even though they did lose the odd member when it was sickly or weak or babies. But really, they could survive right beside them. And then there's weaker animals like kangaroos and things of this nature that would have had to move further away from those predator animals. And the predator animal, the king ones, wouldn't have had to move as far. And same as the bigger prey animals, elephants and all that kind of stuff, wouldn't have had to move as far from the drop-off point in order to sustain themselves. Some moved really far, like mountain lions, but that was probably due to high bloodlines. So there was just so much competition, and the lone males just had to keep moving out, as they got beat up by the heavier males, as we still see in the cats. But anyhow, kangaroos and the weaker prey animals like dingoes that couldn't hunt against those big cats or wolves or what have you, and couldn't catch the stronger prey animals even if they were weakened. Had to move faster. So they got two places like Australia, And any of the bloodline that was left behind on the trail would have gotten killed to extinction, hunted to extinction, as they moved, or as if they were left behind. Like if you had 10 kids, let's say a kangaroo had, well, they don't have 10, but let's say it had 4 or 5 babies or twins, and they grew up along the trail, and one of the twins or one of the babies or the only baby just said, no, I'm staying here, this is safe. And then the herd moved on. Those ones that thought they were safe weren't. They were gone and wiped off the planet anywhere else except for Australia. And God timed that so that those animals actually got to those islands, Galapagos Islands, all these different little places, and then the bigger animals were cut off from following them. And that's why we see different varieties of life in different places on the earth that don't exist anywhere else. It's not because they didn't exist anywhere else. It's because they didn't survive existing anywhere else, and God protected them. The ark makes so much sense when you actually think through. Anyway, I better stop. I'm going on and on. This video is going to take forever to upload. God bless. Have a great day, everyone.